everyone, welcome back to PRN Test Drive. When Dodge first released the 8th generation Charger a couple years ago, it was launched exclusively as an EV model under the Daytona nameplate. Unfortunately, because it didn't have the essence of a V8 or any engine for that matter, it didn't sell well. So for 2026, Dodge now has the six-pack version with the Hurricane inline-six to essentially fill the void. But is it able to do so? This is the 2026 Dodge Charger Scat Pack. Let's check it out. Here in Canada, the 2026 Charger six-pack lineup starts with the RT at about 62,000 Canadian dollars after deliveries, then the Scat Pack, which starts at about 72 grand. If you want the four-door versions, they are a $3,000 premium respectively. Now this tester is pretty loaded. We've got the Scat Pack Plus package, the carbon and suede package, a full glass roof, and the 18-speaker Alpine audio upgrade. So as tested, this one right here comes out to about 86,000 Canadian dollars after deliveries, but before taxes and fees. Under the hood of this six-pack is the high-output Hurricane 3-liter twin-turbocharged inline-six. This engine has an undersquared setup with 84mm bore and 90mm stroke, features a closed deck block, a forged crankshaft, forged conrods, forged pistons, dual overhead cams, a compression ratio of 9.5:1, and it produces 550 horsepower at 6,200 RPM and 531 pound-feet of torque at 3,500 RPM, with peak boost hitting 30 PSI from a pair of Garrett turbochargers. Transmission here is a ZF Source 8-speed torque converter automatic, and all-wheel drive comes standard. That said, there is a rear-wheel drive mode that disconnects the front axles completely, and there is a mechanical limited slip differential in the back if you prefer more traditional Charger behaviors. In terms of the exterior, I think the new Charger looks great. The design highly resembles the second generation Charger from back in the late 60s, and guess what? That's the Charger Dom has in Fast and Furious, so of course it's just extra cool. This Charger is also very, very wide. As a matter of fact, it's so wide that it's 2 inches wider than the previous generation wide body Chargers, and it's basically as wide as a Lamborghini Aventador and an F-150. This Scat Pack also gets a bulging hood in order to fit the vertical inline-six, which you can tell this has from the six-pack printed on the hood vents. As far as lighting goes, the Charger gets an illuminated logo, light bar DRLs, and LED reflector style high and low beams. Over to the side, it's not until you stand next to one of these that you realize how gigantic the new Chargers are. Just now I mentioned it's as wide as a Lamborghini Aventador. Well, in terms of length, it is over 5.2 meters long, meaning that it is longer than the Durango, longer than the Pacifica minivan, and almost as long as a Toyota Sequoia. If you were wondering whether if the four-door version of the Charger is any bigger compared to this, the answer is no, which makes this two-door look even more massive. I will say though that the proportions are fantastic, and I think the car looks great. It even gets carbon fiber mirror caps as part of the carbon and suede pack. Unfortunately, these side mirrors do not power fold, and considering how wide this car is, it would have been nice to have that as a feature because it probably would come in handy when you're parking in tighter spots. Moving on to the mechanicals, the Charger gets multi-link suspension setups with adaptive dampers for both the front and the rear. It also gets a squared setup for tires as well. 275 wide all seasons paired to 20-inch rims, or if you want, you can option for wider rims and a set of 305s, also all seasons if you want more grip. As for brakes, these are 6-piston Brembos in the front and a single piston fluid caliper in the rear. Around back, the Charger Scat Pack gets a small spoiler, a light bar taillight, the Charger nameplate stamped onto the lower bumper, as well as an active exhaust with dual exits. Let's take a listen. For this generation, you now also get a liftback design with a power liftgate. Opening up the trunk, continuing today's theme, you get a gigantic trunk space, 640 liters or so with the rear seats in place and 1,059 liters with them folded down. The sheer amount of surface area here is kind of ridiculous considering this is a two-door sports car. Jumping inside, starting with the back seats, this is probably the most spacious two-door coupe I've ever been in. I've got tons of legroom, good amount of headroom, and even heated seats back here. By the way, this is not a 2+2, you actually get 3 proper seats back here, just like the 4-door version. The interior here is finished in leather and suede materials. You've also got red stitching and some patterns on the seats, which do look really nice. Sunroof is not available, but this tester is optioned with a panoramic fixed glass roof. Unfortunately, there isn't a sunshade, but it's not too bad, I guess, because it comes pretty tinted anyways. Moving up front, as part of the carbon and suede package, you get bucket seats, a suede headliner, and of course, carbon fiber, and in this case, a whole lot of it. You get a huge piece on the door panel, a massive strip that wraps around the dash, more on the other side of the door panel, and then some more down here in the central console area around the gear selector. Additionally, you also get ambient lighting that wraps all the way around the doors and the dash, just like the carbon, and they're bright enough to see during the day, so it's really a nicely designed interior. The 2 screens here also look nice, 16-inch for the cluster and 12-inch for the infotainment, and this tester also has a head-up display. Wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto is supported. There are a lot of performance screens you can play with, but unfortunately there are some downfalls. The screens are not very responsive, some of the widgets don't feel very optimized, and the gauge cluster themes, yeah, they look kind of cool, but they're just not that user-friendly. Most of the rev counters are hidden until you reach those RPMs, and the red line isn't very clear either. You also have to really look to find what gear you're in when you're manual shifting, because it only displays in a small font on the side unless you have the head-up display. If you have the head-up display, it shows a little bit more if you're in sport mode, but even then, it's still just not very clear. The other problem I have with this interior is the steering wheel. It does look really nice and there are a lot of physical buttons, which is great, but ergonomically, the steering wheel is just not very comfortable to hold at the 9 and 3 position because of the shape of the rim and also the shape of the spokes, because it kind of feels like I'm holding a book or a sandwich, sort of like this, so it's not great when you're trying to drive spiritedly. Anyway, moving on to the other amenities, this Scat Pack Plus gets a heated steering wheel, heated and ventilated front seats, memory for the driver, wireless charger, a couple rows of physical buttons, and an 18-speaker Alpine sound system. Overall, I really like the design both inside and out, but let's fire up this inline-six and see how it drives. Objectively, this SIXPACK Scat Pack is a substantially better car than the outgoing Charger Scat Pack. It has a lot more power, a lot more torque, better efficiency, a lot more grip from the all-wheel drive, but does it feel like as much of a muscle car? I don't think so. It's obviously missing that V8 that pretty much defines muscle cars, but it also feels a little too refined, a little too safe, and not quite scary enough when driving it. Don't get me wrong, the inline-six sounds great, and it's pretty throaty, quite loud, and you also get farts in between shifts when you're driving aggressively, but the personality just feels a little bit more European than American muscle. Looking past that though, 550 horsepower and 531 pound-feet of torque from a 3-liter inline-six is pretty impressive. Dodge actually just announced the Charger Super B, which uses the same engine with bigger turbos, and that makes 600 horsepower. Overall, I think this engine is well engineered. It does have a little bit of turbo lag down low at the lower RPMs, but the mid-range and the top end feels really strong. The transmission here is also really quick, really smooth when you want it, and quick when you need it, when you're in sport mode and accelerating quickly and things like that. My only minor complaint here is that I feel like both the throttle and the brake pedal is a little bit touchy, and when I'm downshifting, it just doesn't blip enough for a proper rev match. But other than that, I think this is a pretty awesome powertrain. Of course, another reason why I like this is because it's both all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive. In all-wheel drive mode, it provides extra traction, better stability, and significantly better drivability in terms of poor weather conditions and snow and things like that. You can drive this all year round, no issues. It also allows this car to get to 60 in under 4 seconds despite weighing close to 2,200 kilos. There's an empty road in front of me. Those are some pretty aggressive shifts, and this thing is really quick too. But then, when you switch it into rear-wheel drive mode, you can do burnouts with the line lock, and you can also be as immature as you want. Donuts, powered slides, you name it, it can do it. So it's pretty fun. One thing that's a little weird in my opinion is the active exhaust logic. In sport mode, the valves always stay open, which is great, but in auto mode or even in eco mode, for some reason, oh man, getting carried away a little bit here, but this thing is quick. Anyway, in normal mode, or I guess in auto mode or even in eco mode, for some reason, the valves will open on startups, will open at idle, and will stay open until you go over 25 kilometers an hour. Which means if you want to have a quieter cold start, you can't. And if you want to drive quietly through your neighborhood, you have to go faster than 25 kilometers an hour. Now, the valves do open automatically under hard acceleration in auto mode, but why can't I have the option to close it on startups, at idle, or under 25 kilometers an hour? Just give us a button to control it manually. That would be great. As for handling, the steering feels a little on the numb side, but it actually handles better than you think and handles better than you feel. It's just that because this car is so big and so long and so wide, it's ultimately limited by physics and it just doesn't feel that agile. However, because it has a long wheelbase, in the instance that you do kick the rear end out, it is quite easy to catch. I think where this new generation Charger shines the most is being a GT cruiser. Driving this on the highway, the cabin feels isolated and quiet, the ride quality is nicely calibrated, it never feels floaty, and then oftentimes it feels like you're going slower than you actually are. Pairing these traits with the powerful engine and the spacious two-door interior, what this is to me is a budget Bentley Continental, and this is very much a compliment. Which brings me to safety tech. Adaptive cruise control and lane centering works great on the highway, and I feel confident using them. You also get blind spot warning, emergency braking, parking sensors, 360 cameras, things like that. Fuel economy is also surprisingly impressive for a 2,200 kilo, 550 horsepower car. On the highway, I was able to do between 7.5 to 8 liters per 100 kilometers, and in the city, it's about 11 liters when driving conservatively. Compare that to the previous generation Scat Pack with the Hemi, this is a noticeable improvement. That said, the Scat Pack does require premium fuel, whereas the base RT with the low output Hurricane 3 liter does not. Overall, like I said, this new Charger Scat Pack is a significantly better car than it is before, but without the V8, it still feels like it's missing on a little bit of its identity. Perhaps a tune with more burbles and pop could help, or more aggressive downshift rev matching, things like that. I think I'm okay with having this Hurricane inline-six on the more entry-level Chargers, perhaps even on the Scat Pack, but there needs to be a V8 at the top. Anyway, what do you guys think about the Charger Scat Pack? Do you like it, or are you waiting to see if they release the V8 version? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.